on Sri Lanka because I visited and did some election monitoring there in 1999. I know, I think for middle class Malaysia, there's always this thing that we can vote with our feet ultimately, that, you know, there's this idea of exit. So exit as opposed to voice. So you leave because it's unbearable. You know, this has been theorized. I think Albert Hirschman, I think, talked about this, exit or voice. The question is, even if Barisan comes back to power, they come back with the realization that it cannot be business as usual. Whether they rob us blind or plunder the state at different levels, you know, things that are not to do with our lived realities, that's perhaps something that must concern us ultimately because of the issue of the fiscal integrity of the state. But I think that middle-class Malaysia has to, in some ways, find its voice, and it needs to find its voice through something other than the party political. A week ago, there was a discussion here with Saifuddin Abdullah and Nurul Izzah, and many of the questions were posed to them as if they had the sole burden to deliver a liberal, progressive Malaysia. And there wasn't anybody in the audience who took it upon themselves to reflect upon the responsibilities of middle-class Malaysia to put their money where their mouth is in delivering a progressive and liberal Malaysia. They kind of said, oh, it's your responsibility. Are you alone? Can you do it? Are you, marginal to your political party? And it was like, all right, okay, and what's your responsibility? And I think if we don't see that, even if the Barisan Nasional comes to power, even if the Pakatan Rakyat comes to power, and there are going to be huge problems, I think, with that transition too, the question is the liberal progressive segment, which is always marginal, going to step up and take on the responsibility of doing something to transform this country?
One of the interesting things about the Saifuddin Izzah, when they asked me, I suggested the title, Is a Liberal Politics Possible for Contemporary Malaysia? And both the participants actually rejected the title and replaced the word liberal with progressive. And most of the audience were actually quite upset that they had done that. Because most of the audience, I think, are so removed from political realities. People like Saifuddin and Izzah and Saifuddin have been very pejoratively, really lambasted for being liberals. So, we have arrived at a point where the word liberal itself is a condemning word. As if it implies a kind of permissiveness of your ideas and body and everything. So that's actually the state, and how removed people were from that kind of reality was quite a surprise to me. Sri Lanka is quite mild. I think I'm going to Bangkok and I need something so extreme. I'm going to hang out with some lady boys or something. Because this is one of the things. This is one of the things that was brought up last week. How are we actually going to deal with a kind of depression if nothing changes? Because for many people I talk to, it's one extreme or the other. I think many who are hoping for a Pakatan victory really, really believe it and will not accept any kind of thing. I got into a bit of tension with Tommy Thomas on Thursday because I was talking about Najib's popularity, and he just stood there and shook his head. Absolutely not. So that thing is going to be very interesting, and I don't think we have answers for that, but we can conduct some imaginative journalism and try and predict. Yeah. Any more questions, please? William. Any more? Full of questions now. Kian, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's start with William and then to Kian.
Hi, my name is William De Cruz, and as Java done for me just now, yes, I've been working for Global Verse for some time now. You guys were saying earlier you're tired. You're tired because this campaign began about 5 years ago. I'm a journalist too, and I think what I'm about to say now is going to blow any chances I've got of getting a job with you absolutely out of the water. I think you guys are jaded. And in this business, you've got no right to be tired. The story happens all the time. And we owe it to this country to tell the story. And we are at a moment in our lives and in this country's life that is, I believe, it's most critical. We are making history. But going back to this, sorry, I don't mean to be making a speech, but I'm going to hand the mic back to you. But going back to the lady's comments about what about electoral fraud? Let me just give you a couple of numbers here. A few months ago, nearly 1 million Malaysians living overseas who were eligible for the postal vote were denied that. Now, this action was by the Election Commission. It was unconstitutional, it was illegal, it was willful, and it was discriminatory. Now, today, after a lot of pressure from Bersih, like I said, we had about 1 million people who were eligible to be accepted as postal voters. They were not allowed to. Today, that postal vote category has been expanded. And guess what? We've only got 5,000 postal voters living overseas in the countries from categories that were previously barred from the postal vote. Why is this? Because up to 400,000 living in Singapore have been denied the postal vote, willfully. Up to 300,000 East Malaysians, most of them students and low-paid workers, working in Semenanjung, have to find their way back to East Malaysia. Now, some of us have begun a fundraising campaign to pay for their airfare, which may only cost 500 ringgit. But it may take some of these people up to 3 days to catch a sampan, catch a boat, catch whatever, to go back to their rural kampong somewhere in Sabah or Sarawak. So from nearly 1 million, the EC made a lot of noise about, doing the right thing. It's only reached about 5,000 people. Now, so we're not just talking about electoral fraud here. So, pardon me guys, but the headline here is, the Election Commission, the constitutionally mandated commission, is cheating this country. We might as well call this party off G13, because what's a electoral system in a properly functioning democracy? It's a system by which the will of the majority can be measured through the vote, and then that measure is translated into a legal mandate to govern. We don't have that. Why are we bothering to vote? Where is, now I come down to my question, sorry for the long speech. Where is that story, guys? I have a lot of regard for what you all are doing. I've written for Malaysian Insider, I've written for Malaysia Kini, and this and that, New Mandela. So I have a lot of regard for what the alternative media has done for Malaysia, because I don't think we would be here today if not for, not just social media, but if not for Malaysia Kini, Malaysian Insider, BFM, Asohan's platform, Radio Free Malaysia, which is actually being run by the sister-in-law of the former Prime Minister of Britain. She's on our side too. And yet, we have an election commission that's cheating this entire country. They've done it before. So, gentlemen, where's that headline? Where's that headline that says we might as well not have GE13?
Thanks, William. After that, I'll be very brief. I think what Jabba was saying is really quite true, and I think needs to be stressed for those of us who might be deeply skeptical about this elections and the cheating that was involved and all these apparent things, and as he points out. We thought it was all going to change in 1999, as some of us reporting Reformasi then we assumed, and of course the surge wasn't there. But I think after covering the American elections last year, I'm based in Washington, it was remarkable, I think, for me to see how Obama got out the vote, and how, of course, they have these systems, this amazing sort of computer database system which relies on friendship trees and personal recommendations and the depth of the data that they have in terms of pulling out the vote at the last 2.5 weeks of the campaign, which is why you had this inner city surge and the so-called Rainbow Coalition that got him across the line. I think that seems to speak to also what Javas raised, which is that it is only a couple of percentage points fraction. If we get that sort of surge, you may have a very different result on the 6th of May from the one that we are mostly expecting today.
Hi, I'm Lucy. My question is very simple. And William, thank you very much for that very heartfelt, I wouldn't call it speech, it's actually a heartfelt plea. My question is very simple. It's about good stories. To you, Adam, I've been wanting to know about Perak. I could not understand how Perak could change government before another election took place.
Hello, my name is Joey. What I'm saying might not be a question. So, to me, I can't recall 1970s, 1980s. I'm too young for that. But as far as I can remember, probably for the past 10, 15 years, it's always about war of classes, isn't it? All the religious, racist issues. You really look at it, it's more of just a smokescreen, or it's just an act for the have to have more, for the have not to lose more, or for the people who have some that get anger, which what we are talking about, middle class getting angry. Wasn't that the case? I mean, that is as far as I can remember.
Anyone with one more last question? We're running out of time. Anyone? No. Okay. Why don't we take this?